Ever wondered what secrets ancient artifacts could reveal? Welcome to Unearthed Secrets, where we uncover the hidden stories behind history's most fascinating discoveries. Today, we'll explore 6 incredible artifacts with mysteries that have lasted thousands of years. Please hit subscribe, like, and tell us where you're watching from. Let's dive in. The comb that spoke of hair. They say the smallest objects often hold the deepest memories, and in the sunburnt dust of southern Israel, beneath a mound of stone and time, known as Tel Lachish, there was found an object so ordinary it almost escaped notice. It was a comb, delicate, carved from ivory, its teeth worn down, its edges cracked by thousands of years of silence. But when the archaeologist brushed away the soil, something glimmered faintly on its side. Tiny markings, so faint they could have been mistaken for scratches, turned out to be letters, words written in the oldest alphabet ever found. And suddenly the comb was no longer just a tool for grooming hair. It became a whisper from a world older than any empire, a message caught between life and eternity. The comb was small enough to fit in a hand, but its story was vast as the sky above the Canaanite plains. The letters carved along its frame read something that, when translated, seemed almost humorous, almost human. May this tusk root out the lice of the hair and the beard. And yet, hidden beneath that simplicity, there was a kind of tenderness, a glimpse into the daily lives of people who lived 37 centuries ago, who scratched their heads beneath the same sun that still bakes the ruins of Lachish today. You could almost picture the owner, someone of status perhaps, since ivory was rare, sitting near a clay lamp, running the comb through their hair as a breeze from the fields carried the scent of barley and smoke. In the soft hum of the evening, the ivory would catch the fading light, and the faint lines of script would shimmer like something alive. The letters were not just symbols, they were the breath of a language being born, the Canaanite alphabet, from which Hebrew, Greek, and Latin would all eventually grow. Every word we know, every letter we use, could trace its ancestry to tools like this, to hands like those that once carved this comb. So when you hold a pen, or type a message, you are in a sense touching the same lineage of meaning that began here, in the cradle of dust and ivory. But the comb did more than carry a blessing, it carried the marks of time itself. Beneath a microscope, tiny traces of lice still clung to the ancient teeth of the comb, perfectly preserved ghosts of human struggle and care. It was not a symbol of vanity, but of survival. The smallness of it, the way it held the texture of human life, felt more powerful than any royal tomb. The people of Lachish were farmers, builders, and traders. They lived between empires, under skies that saw the rise and fall of Egypt, Babylon, and Assyria. And yet, amid all that history, someone took the time to carve a prayer against lice onto a comb. It's humbling, in a way, that thousands of years before shampoos or mirrors or electricity, someone worried about the same things we still do. Discomfort, appearance, the small rituals of being human. The comb becomes a bridge between then and now, between the grand sweep of history and the soft whisper of daily life. Its letters, though few, are more than decoration. They are the echo of the earliest human thought, that words could hold power, that writing could trap meaning, that something carved into ivory could last longer than the person who made it. When it was found, the comb was split in two. Its upper teeth, fine, meant for removing lice, were mostly gone. The wider teeth below, perhaps for detangling hair, remained, though worn smooth. Each tooth, each fracture, carried the breath of thousands of hands. And as the archaeologist brushed away the centuries, the air around the site seemed to shimmer with memory. Tel Lachish was not a small place. It was a fortress city, a center of culture and defense, destroyed and rebuilt more than once. Assyrian kings wrote about conquering it. Egyptian pharaohs recorded its name. The Bible speaks of it as one of the fortified cities of Judah. And beneath all those layers of power and ruin, a comb, an everyday object, waited in the earth for millennia, holding the oldest known sentence written in an alphabet. Not carved on stone, not inscribed on a temple wall, but etched into ivory, meant to touch hair and skin. That's the quiet miracle of it. Civilization began, not only with weapons and palaces, but with tools of care, with small acts of tenderness disguised as practicality. Imagine the craftsman who made it. He would have held the ivory tusk, warm beneath his fingers, shaping it with a sharp flake of flint. Each stroke a whisper, each motion careful. He might have murmured a blessing as he worked, breathing life into the object. Perhaps he was commissioned by someone, a merchant, a priest, or a mother who wanted to protect her child. Perhaps he carved those letters not as a spell, but as a promise. The alphabet he used was new then, experimental, a simplified system of marks that replaced older, more complex scripts. It was revolutionary. A way for ordinary people, not just scribes, to write their own words. In that way, this comb represents a moment of transformation in human thought, from the monumental to the personal, from the sacred to the human, from stone walls to ivory teeth. The world around Lachish would have been alive with trade and tension, caravans passing through the valley, carrying goods from the Mediterranean coast to the desert beyond. The scent of frankincense, the dust of oxen hooves, the clang of bronze tools. In the evenings when the city gates closed, fires would flicker along the walls, and in one home, lit by the glow of oil, someone would lift this comb and run it through their hair, tracing each tooth through the strands, perhaps humming softly, perhaps thinking of a long day of work or worship. They would not have known that thousands of years later, their small act would still be remembered. The ivory came from far away, perhaps from an elephant hunted in Egypt or Africa. Its journey alone spanned continents. To carve it into a comb was to turn bone into beauty, to make something from death that nurtured life. That paradox runs through all of history, doesn't it? The reuse of nature into meaning, the transformation of one life into another's tool. And so this comb with its carved prayer is a relic not of vanity but of connection, a reminder that even in ages of kings and conquests, what endured were the quiet things, the care between humans, the urge to be clean, to be comforted, to be understood. The more you look at it, the more it seems to breathe. The letters are uneven, slightly awkward, the work of a hand not yet trained by generations of scribes. And yet that imperfection is its beauty. It shows the birth of writing itself. It's as if humanity, in that single inscription, was learning how to speak again, this time with symbols instead of sounds. The comb's words are small, but behind them stretches the entire future of language. And the person who wrote them, anonymous, long forgotten, was one of the first to realize that words could be carved into eternity. When you whisper to yourself, or write a thought you hope someone will read one day, you are doing the same thing they did, reaching beyond time, hoping to be heard. When the comb was placed in the museum, the curators noticed something else. Its surface shimmered faintly under the light, as if still catching warmth. It seemed to hold not just the memory of touch, but the intention behind it. A wish. The same wish we all share, to be safe, to be cared for, to find comfort in the rituals of being alive. And in that way the comb is not silent, it still speaks. Not through its inscription, but through the soft presence it carries. Through the idea that something so small, so fragile, could hold the story of how words began and how they never truly end. Each mark on the ivory is a heartbeat from the past. Each word, a step closer to understanding that history is not just what we build, but what we touch, what we hold, what we leave behind. Somewhere in the dust of Lachish, there may be others, lost tools, forgotten words, quiet echoes waiting to be uncovered. But for now, the comb remains, a whisper of language, a fragment of care, a small shining proof that even the simplest human act can echo across thousands of years. It's strange, isn't it, that we began our journey into civilization not with thunder or glory, but with something meant to soothe, to comfort, to cleanse, a comb, carved from ivory, inscribed with the hope that life could be just a little gentler. In that quiet hope, humanity found its voice, and through the soft lines of that ancient prayer, the past still hums, speaking without words, across time, across silence, across everything that separates us from them. The pebble that challenged history. It was small enough to disappear in a closed fist, smooth from ages of weather and water, a pale gray stone lying quietly in the soil near the Greek village of Kafkania. When it was first unearthed in 1994, no one could have guessed that this tiny pebble would go on to challenge everything historians thought they knew about the origins of writing in Europe. The day it was found was ordinary enough. Archaeologists were excavating near Olympia, a place already heavy with the weight of ancient glory, when one of the workers' shovels caught something small. He bent, picked it up, and brushed off the dirt. It was just a stone, but he noticed marks on one side, shallow, deliberate, almost like the traces of a hand that had wanted to say something. The archaeologist supervising the dig took it and turned it in the light. The faint lines formed shapes, symbols even, arranged in an order that didn't seem random. The moment stretched, because on that little pebble, someone, thousands of years ago, had carved intention into stone. The artifact would come to be known as the Kafkania pebble, and the marks on its surface would divide scholars for decades. It wasn't the size or the material that mattered, but what those marks might mean, and when they were made. Some saw in them the ghostly shapes of Linear B, the writing system used by the Mycenaeans, the first known form of Greek script. But the problem was that the layer of earth where the pebble was found dated to around 1700 BCE, centuries before the Mycenaean civilization had supposedly developed writing. If that dating was accurate, the Kafkania pebble wasn't just unusual, it was impossible. If genuine, this small object meant that someone in Greece was writing 500 years earlier than anyone believed possible. It would rewrite the timeline of literacy in Europe, suggesting that the Greeks had inherited not just ideas of art and trade from the Minoans, but the very concept of written communication. It would mean that the first flickers of Greek thought, the desire to record, to name, to preserve, had begun long before kings and palaces and scribes. But extraordinary claims demand extraordinary proof, and that proof was elusive. When news of the pebble spread, it rippled through the world of archaeology like a quiet explosion. Some hailed it as one of the most important finds of the 20th century, a missing link between prehistory and the dawn of civilization. Others dismissed it outright as a forgery, a clever trick, or perhaps a later object that had simply fallen into older soil. The arguments grew fierce. Papers were written, reputations risked. The pebble, silent and inscrutable, became the center of a storm. When examined under magnification, its marks were clean and deep, made by a sharp tool with controlled pressure. One side appeared to show a small humanoid figure, stick-like, almost childlike, holding something that could be a scepter or staff. Near it was a star-like symbol, and below, a sequence of shorter lines and strokes that echoed the rhythm of written characters. The archaeologists who studied it could not agree. Were these true letters, or simply a set of decorative scratches? The longer one stared, the less certain one became. To test it, specialists studied the weathering inside the grooves. If the carvings were ancient, the mineral buildup within the cuts would have aged at the same rate as the rest of the pebble's surface. And indeed, early tests suggested that the incisions were not new. The patina that coated them was old, perhaps as old as the stone itself. That finding only deepened the mystery, because if the marks were ancient, then the Kafkania pebble was one of the earliest written artifacts ever found in Europe. The implications were enormous. It would suggest that the Mycenaean script known as Linear B, long thought to be the first, was preceded by an earlier unknown stage of writing, perhaps a local or experimental system, born in the western Peloponnese and later refined into the organized form used on palace tablets. It would also mean that the Greeks had developed or inherited the idea of writing independently of the Near East, that literacy, rather than arriving from Mesopotamia through trade, might have been born twice in human history, once by the Sumerians and once by an unknown hand in Greece. And yet, even among believers, doubt lingered. Forgeries are not unheard of, and archaeology has suffered its share of clever deceits. Some critics pointed out that the pebble's supposed symbols looked too similar to later Linear B signs, as though copied by someone who already knew the script. Others noted that the discovery was never followed by additional finds. No other artifacts from the same site carried markings even remotely similar. It was a lone voice in a sea of silence. But what if that was the point? Perhaps it was never meant as a system of writing. Perhaps the person who carved it had simply been experimenting, making marks without meaning, repeating a gesture seen elsewhere, imitating symbols from a traveler or trader. Or perhaps it was ritual. Some scholars suggested it could have been an offering, a sacred token left in the earth for the gods. The figure on the pebble might represent a deity, and the symbols might be words not of language, but of devotion. Whatever it was, the Kafkania pebble carries an intimacy rare in archaeology. Most ancient inscriptions are formal, records of kings, inventories of trade, or decrees of temples. But this object feels personal. The marks are small, close together, and hesitant in places, as though carved by a single hand rather than a trained scribe. When you look at it, you can almost imagine someone sitting in the dust, perhaps by a fire, perhaps alone, pressing meaning into stone with a tool of bronze or bone. Maybe it was their first attempt at writing, not for others to read, but to see if the world would listen. That impulse, to mark, to record, to declare I was here, is one of the oldest in humanity. Before alphabets, before cities, before history itself, there were hands like this, carving into stone, bone, or clay. The Kafkania pebble is not just an artifact, it is a conversation across millennia, an echo of a mind reaching out through time, and the fact that we cannot fully understand what it says only makes that echo more powerful. Even now, decades later, the debates continue. Some scientists argue that new tests prove it could not be ancient, that its markings were carved in modern times, perhaps even as a prank. Others maintain that the evidence still fits with ancient origin, but in either case, the pebble has done something remarkable. It has reminded us of how fragile our confidence in history really is. We like to believe the past is mapped and measured, that our timelines are neat. But the truth is that history is full of loose threads, small contradictions, and artifacts that whisper, you don't know everything yet. The pebble rests today in quiet storage, watched over but rarely displayed. It lacks the glamour of gold or the grandeur of sculpture. Yet those who have seen it say it radiates something different, a kind of patience, as though waiting for someone, someday, to finally understand. The cuts on its surface still catch the light, and the faint human figure still gazes upward, perhaps at the same stars its maker once saw. Maybe it was never meant to be read. Maybe it was a message to time itself, a proof that thought existed even before words were born. The Kafkania pebble stands as both mystery and mirror, showing us that the story of civilization is not a single line, but a scattered mosaic of moments, some bright, some fading. all linked by curiosity, and if the person who carved it could see us now, arguing over their creation thousands of years later, they might smile, because in the end, their message, whatever it was, endured. It survived flood and dust, war and forgetting. It made the world stop and wonder, and maybe, just maybe, that was the point all along. The iron that posed questions. In a quiet village in Upper Austria, surrounded by rolling hills and pastures that glimmered in the soft sunlight, a peculiar object was found in the late 19th century that would puzzle scientists and historians for generations. It was an object so small, so ordinary in appearance, that anyone glancing at it would likely have passed it off as nothing more than a piece of rusty iron. But when discovered in 1885 near the town of Wolfsegg, this fragment of metal became the focus of curiosity, speculation, and enduring mystery. Known today as the Wolfsegg iron, it is a seemingly mundane piece of iron that refuses to fit neatly into the story of human technological history. Its simplicity is deceptive, for beneath the rusted surface lies a question that has defied explanation for more than a century. How did this object come to exist, and why does it seem to predate the technologies we associate with ironworking? The Wolfsegg iron was discovered by miners working in a lignite coal seam near the village. As they dug deeper into the dark layers of sediment, they uncovered the small, elongated object embedded in the coal. To the miners, it was simply an oddity, a metallic fragment lodged within layers of fossilized material that stretched back millions of years. But scientists soon took interest. At first glance, the object appeared to be an ordinary iron nail or small spike, yet the context of its discovery, deep within the lignite, in strata that geologists estimated to be millions of years old, was what made it extraordinary. Iron, in the form we recognize, is not believed to have been manipulated by humans until well into the Iron Age, roughly 1200 BCE in Europe. If the dating of the coal was correct, the Wolfsegg iron seemed to belong to a time before humanity had the ability to smelt or shape iron. This contradiction sent ripples through the scientific community. How could a clearly human-made iron object be embedded in coal that formed long before humans existed? Some immediately suggested the find must be an error, perhaps the result of contamination, a later intrusion of a modern object into the ancient coal seam. Others, however, insisted that the coal's integrity had been verified and that the iron had indeed been trapped in the coal during its formation. The debate over its origin and authenticity has continued ever since, making the Wolfsegg iron one of the most enigmatic artifacts ever discovered. Researchers examined the object under microscopes, analyzing its structure and composition. It was made of relatively pure iron, not alloyed with significant amounts of other metals, and it displayed characteristics consistent with cold forging rather than natural formation. There were no telltale signs of accidental smelting from surrounding geological processes. The edges were shaped deliberately, and the form suggested that it had been worked intentionally, likely by human hands. Yet according to all conventional timelines of metallurgy, no human civilization existed at the time the coal around it formed. The implications were staggering. If this object was indeed ancient, it suggested that either humans had mastered ironworking far earlier than we know, perhaps millions of years earlier, or that some unknown force had placed it within the coal through means we cannot understand. Each hypothesis seemed to stretch reason in its own way. The first would rewrite the history of human technological development entirely. The second would suggest the interference of phenomena that science has yet to account for. Either way, the Wolfsegg iron refused to be explained away as ordinary. Over the decades, numerous tests were performed on the object: X-ray analysis, metallurgical studies, and comparisons with other iron artifacts of known origin were conducted. All confirmed that the metal was not a naturally occurring meteorite fragment, nor was it the result of geological processes that might fuse iron particles into recognizable shapes. It was undeniably human-made, yet the coal that encased it was undeniably ancient. The paradox remained unsolved. Speculations arose. Some fringe theorists proposed that the object was evidence of an advanced civilization predating known history, a civilization capable of metallurgy long before the Stone Age. Others imagined extraterrestrial intervention, a visitor from the stars leaving behind a small artifact as proof of their presence. Mainstream scientists, while rejecting such far-fetched ideas, often admitted that the Wolfsegg iron was a compelling anomaly, a reminder that our understanding of history and technology might be incomplete. Beyond the scientific intrigue, the Wolfsegg iron has a certain poetic quality. It is a tiny, unremarkable object that raises enormous questions. In its quiet, rusted surface lies a story of possibility. The possibility that humanity's narrative is not as straightforward as textbooks claim. Perhaps this small piece of iron is a messenger from a forgotten past, a silent witness to a time when the world was different and the timeline of human achievement was far more complex than we imagine. The object now resides in a collection in Austria, studied but still puzzling, admired for its simplicity and revered for its mystery. Visitors who see it are often struck by the paradox it embodies. How can a simple, familiar piece of iron, forged with care, exist in a context that seems impossible? It is at once ordinary and extraordinary, mundane and miraculous, a testament to the universe's ability to confound us. Every generation that examines the wolf's egg iron asks the same questions. Who made it? How did it come to be embedded in coal? Was it placed there intentionally, or is it the result of processes beyond our understanding? Each hypothesis opens new avenues of thought, but none resolves the central mystery. The artifact challenges assumptions, forcing scholars to reconsider the relationship between human history, technological development, and the evidence left behind. And yet, despite the debates, the wolf's egg iron endures. It has survived miners, skepticism, and the passage of time. It is a small, silent object that continues to provoke discussion and wonder. Perhaps that is its purpose, not merely to be explained, but to remind us that the past is not always neat and linear, that history contains anomalies, and that curiosity must remain alive. The iron that posed questions, as it has come to be known, is a symbol of the tension between evidence and interpretation. It is a prompt to humility, a reminder that even the smallest object can carry weighty implications. In the quiet of a museum, under soft lights, it rests patiently, waiting for the next generation of observers to consider it, to turn it over, to wonder. And so, the wolf's egg iron remains one of the most enigmatic artifacts ever discovered, a simple piece of metal that continues to defy explanation, challenge understanding, and ignite imagination. It is a whisper from the depths of history, a riddle embedded in stone and coal, and a testament to the enduring mystery of our past. It asks us to pause, to question, and to remember that for every answer we find, there are always more questions waiting beneath the surface. It reminds us that history is never truly finished, that even a small fragment can contain a universe of meaning, and that the story of humanity is far richer and stranger than we have ever imagined. This iron, cold and silent, continues to speak across centuries, a small enigma that refuses to be ignored. The wolf's egg iron is not just an object, it is a challenge to curiosity itself, a call to look deeper, to think differently, and to embrace the mysteries that history still holds. It is a relic of our past, a question without a definitive answer, and an invitation to wonder at the improbable, the inexplicable, and the eternal. The iron that posed questions continues to sit in its case, waiting, its rusted form catching the light, silent yet eloquent. Each observer sees it differently, a curiosity, a puzzle, a relic, or a miracle, and yet all agree on one thing: it is impossible to dismiss. Its small, simple frame holds a story that continues to grow with every mind that contemplates it. The wolf's egg iron, humble and enigmatic, endures as one of history's most intriguing artifacts, a reminder that even the simplest objects can leave the most profound questions. The wreck that carried Holmes. Beneath the sparkling Aegean waters, off the southern coast of the Greek island of Dokos, a story lay buried for nearly 3,000 years, hidden beneath layers of sand, coral, and the slow, inevitable sediment of the sea. It is a story that begins not with a battle or a king, but with the quiet, deliberate movement of people and the cargo they valued most, the trappings of daily life, the objects that shaped homes, families, and survival in a distant age. In 1999, a team of underwater archaeologists, diving through the deep blue waters, discovered a shipwreck unlike any other they had encountered. This was not a vessel laden with weapons or treasures meant to be hoarded. It was a cargo ship, carrying the practical, essential, and deeply human contents of life across the waves of the ancient world. The ship itself was of modest size, a wooden construction designed to endure the unpredictable temperament of the Aegean Sea, yet the cargo it carried was extraordinary. Pots, amphorae, jugs, cooking utensils, and small furniture fragments, items meant to furnish homes, lay scattered around the wreck site, preserved by the gentle embrace of the sea and the protective cloak of sand. Archaeologists were struck by the uniformity of the objects. They were not luxury goods intended for the elite, but the everyday belongings of common people. It was a snapshot of ancient domestic life, frozen in time, a rare glimpse of ordinary existence in the late Bronze Age. As the divers explored the site, carefully brushing away centuries of silt, they began to map the arrangement of the cargo. Amphorae containing oil, wine, or grain were stacked in careful rows, suggesting that the ship's crew had been meticulous in packing, aware of the preciousness of their goods. The positioning of the items hinted at an understanding of balance and the dynamics of a vessel at sea. Even in disaster there was order, and disaster indeed had struck. The shipwreck was a reminder of the perilous life of maritime trade in antiquity. A sudden storm, a hidden reef, or a navigational error could mean the end of a journey, turning a vessel full of homes into a tomb beneath the waves. The significance of the Dokos shipwreck, however, extended beyond the mere preservation of objects. It was the earliest known underwater cargo ship in the world, dating back to around 2250–210 BCE, during the late Helladic period. This made it far older than most other known shipwrecks, and it offered a unique insight into the trade networks of the time. The Aegean Sea, even in these early centuries, was a bustling corridor of exchange, linking islands and mainland communities. Goods moved not just as commodities, but as carriers of culture, knowledge, and innovation. And among these goods were items meant to create the comfort and familiarity of home for people far from their native soil. Each amphora, each ceramic jar, each fragment of a wooden box told a story. These were objects that had been used, packed carefully, and then abandoned to the sea in an instant of calamity. Yet their survival provides a rare opportunity to understand the lives of those who were not kings or generals, but ordinary citizens whose labor, trade, and domestic routines sustained the broader tapestry of civilization. The artifacts revealed information about storage techniques, cooking methods, and the types of provisions that supported seafaring communities. Some amphorae bore traces of olive oil, while others contained remnants of wine, and others still may have held grain, a staple of ancient diets. The variety hinted at the adaptability and resourcefulness of Bronze Age seafarers, their ability to prepare for journeys that could last weeks, if not months. The arrangement and types of cargo also suggested that the ship may have been carrying a household's complete inventory, what one might call the movable home of a family traveling from one port to another. In some ways it was as though the ship carried entire lives across the water, encapsulating the routines, habits, and necessities of domestic existence. For archaeologists, this humanized the past in an extraordinary way. These objects were not just artifacts, they were proxies for lives lived millennia ago, tangible connections to the choices, challenges, and ingenuity of people long gone. When the wreck was examined further, researchers noted signs of meticulous craftsmanship in the cargo containers. The amphorae, for example, were uniform in shape and size, their narrow necks and flared rims designed to minimize spillage while maximizing capacity. Some bore decorative motifs, geometric lines or impressions from the potter's tools, while others were plain, designed purely for utility. The coexistence of practical and decorative elements suggested that even objects destined for transport were created with care, reflecting a culture that valued both function and aesthetic form. Moreover, the wooden remains of crates and small furniture pieces provided insight into Bronze Age carpentry techniques. Although waterlogged and fragile, careful analysis revealed joinery methods and craftsmanship that suggested a surprisingly sophisticated understanding of structure and durability. Each object, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, was a testament to the skill, knowledge, and care of those who made them. The location of the wreck itself also carried meaning. Situated near the island of Dokos, the ship had likely been navigating between larger trade hubs in the Cyclades and the Peloponnese. This region of the Aegean was known for its treacherous waters, hidden reefs, and sudden storms, making every voyage a calculated risk. That the vessel sank near Dokos may have been due to misfortune, but it also ensured that its cargo would be preserved for modern eyes. The sediments and calm waters of the area created conditions that allowed the organic and inorganic materials to survive in remarkable condition for millennia. For decades following the discovery, the Dokos shipwreck has been studied meticulously. Radiocarbon dating, sediment analysis, and underwater excavation techniques revealed details not just about the ship and its cargo, but about the broader context of Bronze Age maritime trade. These investigations revealed the origins of the goods, the likely routes the vessel followed, and even the probable techniques used to load and secure the cargo. Each revelation contributed to a growing picture of an interconnected Aegean world where commerce, culture, and domestic life were inextricably linked. The story of the Dokos shipwreck is one of survival against the odds. The ship itself was lost to the sea, yet the cargo endured, carrying with it the echoes of homes long vanished, people long gone, and routines long forgotten. It is an underwater time capsule, a direct line to the lives of those who navigated a world both familiar and alien to us today. Each amphora, each utensil, each fragment of wood is a voice from the past, a testament to the resilience, ingenuity, and humanity of the Bronze Age. And as we study it, we are reminded that history is not solely the domain of kings, battles, or monumental constructions. Often the most profound connections to the past come through the ordinary, the objects that carried everyday life, the tools, containers, and vessels that supported existence. The Dokos shipwreck cargo is precisely that, the remnants of homes, of daily life, of human endeavor, preserved by chance, yet speaking volumes across the millennia. It is a reminder that every voyage, no matter how humble, is significant. The people who packed the ship, who loaded their amphorae and secured their furniture, carried with them not only goods but the very essence of life, the need for food, shelter, comfort, and continuity. They faced the uncertainties of the sea, much like we face the uncertainties of life. Yet they pressed on, trusting in their skills, their preparation, and the fragile vessels they called home. The Dokos shipwreck teaches us patience, observation, and wonder. Each fragment, each shard, each preserved object is a key to understanding the past, and yet, like history itself, it leaves us with questions that may never be fully answered. Who owned these objects? What prompted the journey? How did they experience the world around them? Though we may never know the complete story, the artifacts allow us to imagine, reconstruct, and honor the lives that intersected with the sea in that long-forgotten time. Here, in the quiet depths off Dokos, the wreck lies as it has for nearly 3 millennia, a silent witness to human ingenuity and fragility. It reminds us that ordinary objects can carry extraordinary stories, and that even the smallest fragment of daily life can become an enduring testament to human resilience, adaptation, and creativity. As we return to the depths off the coast of Dokos, the wreck waits quietly, a time capsule of human life, frozen beneath centuries of sea and sediment. Part 2 of this story delves deeper into the lives behind the objects, the intricate details of the cargo, and the mysteries that continue to captivate archaeologists and historians alike. The Dokos shipwreck is more than a collection of pots and jars. It is a vivid window into the Bronze Age, illuminating the human desire to transport not just goods but the essence of domestic life across the unpredictable waters of the Aegean. Among the most striking discoveries at the site were the amphorae, tall, slender vessels carefully stacked in the ship's hold. Some bore inscriptions or symbols, faint markings that may have indicated ownership, contents, or intended destinations. Others displayed delicate incised patterns, hinting at an aesthetic appreciation even in items meant for practical use. The varying shapes and sizes suggested a cargo that catered to multiple households, perhaps even a small community, moving together across the waves. Olive oil, grains, wine, and possibly preserved foods were stored within these containers, essential commodities that sustained life at home and on board. Each vessel was a lifeline, a testament to planning, foresight, and an intimate understanding of both the necessities of travel and the hazards of maritime life. Fragments of wooden crates and furniture scattered across the seabed revealed even more about the lives connected to this vessel. Some of the wood showed signs of fine joinery, carefully constructed boxes, and small chests that may have held personal belongings, tools, or small household items. These were not merely cargo, they were fragments of homes, pieces of everyday life that had been entrusted to the sea. Each object carried the invisible fingerprint of human intention, the labor, thought, and care of artisans, family members, and traders long gone. The wreck, in this sense, is almost sacred, a repository of ordinary lives rendered extraordinary by the accident of preservation. The ship's construction itself provides insight into Bronze Age seafaring capabilities. Built for stability and endurance, it was designed to navigate the often treacherous Aegean waters. Its hull, though mostly decayed, showed evidence of advanced woodworking techniques for the time, including mortise and tenon joints and reinforced ribs that allowed it to carry heavy loads while resisting the relentless pressure of waves. The vessel's size and design suggest it was capable of inter-island trade, connecting communities and facilitating the movement of goods, ideas, and culture across the region. Every plank, every fastened joint, whispers of knowledge passed down through generations of shipbuilders. The wreck site also revealed signs of the storm or navigational mishap that had led to the ship's demise. Scattered amphorae and splintered wood suggested a sudden and violent event, rather than gradual decay or sinking due to neglect. The distribution of objects across the seabed hinted at the movement of currents after the wreck, as the sea slowly rearranged the cargo over centuries. Yet despite this disruption, enough remained intact to allow modern archaeologists to reconstruct the vessel's original load and arrangement. This delicate balance between preservation and chaos offers a metaphor for life itself, a reminder that the human story is fragile, subject to forces beyond our control, yet enduring in its traces. Beyond the objects themselves, the Dokos shipwreck provides profound insight into the culture and economy of the late Bronze Age Aegean. Trade networks were already sophisticated, linking islands, coastal settlements, and inland communities. Commodities such as olive oil, wine, and ceramics were not only valuable in a practical sense, but also formed the backbone of social and economic exchange. The cargo of the Dokos ship may have been destined for a market, a festival, or even a migration, carrying with it the lifeblood of domestic and commercial life. It is an artifact not just of material culture but of human connection, revealing the interwoven lives of distant communities brought together by trade and necessity. The human element is perhaps the most compelling aspect of this story. Archaeologists can only imagine the people who packed the cargo, raised the sails, and steered the vessel across the Aegean. Families preparing for long journeys, traders negotiating deals, sailors braving storms, all left their imprint on these objects, tangible echoes of lives lived millennia ago. The ship was, in essence, a moving home, a vessel of daily life, carrying the comforts, sustenance, and identity of the people aboard. Each amphora and crate represents a deliberate choice, a plan for survival and continuity, a reflection of human ingenuity and resilience. One of the most fascinating aspects of the wreck is the preservation of organic materials. While wood decayed over time, the anaerobic conditions created by layers of silt and sand helped preserve fragments of textiles, ropes, and even food residues. These traces offer clues about diet, clothing, and daily routines. Archaeologists found traces of grains and legumes, suggesting provisions for a journey that may have lasted days or weeks. The remnants of ropes and fastenings indicate careful packing and securing of cargo, revealing an understanding of physics and balance that was sophisticated for its time. These details transform the wreck from a mere collection of objects into a narrative of human experience, allowing us to glimpse the routines, skills, and priorities of those who lived more than 3,000 years ago. The site has also sparked broader questions about the scale and reach of Bronze Age trade. How far had the ship traveled before it sank? Which communities had contributed to the cargo, and which were intended as recipients? Some amphorae bear stylistic similarities to vessels found on Crete, while others resemble pottery from mainland Greece or even Anatolia. This suggests that the ship was part of a complex network of exchange, connecting distant regions and facilitating not only economic but cultural interactions. The Dokos shipwreck, therefore, is not merely a vessel lost at sea, but a symbol of the interconnectedness of human societies in the ancient world. As modern divers and archaeologists continue to study the wreck, new techniques in underwater archaeology, including 3D mapping, remote sensing, and residue analysis, reveal even more about the cargo and the lives it represented. Each advancement in technology allows us to see the wreck with greater clarity, to understand the choices and experiences of those who entrusted their daily lives to this vessel. Yet, for all the insight gained, some mysteries remain. We may never know the names of those aboard, the exact purpose of the journey, or the circumstances that led to the ship's final resting place, and perhaps that is part of its enduring allure, the tension between what can be known and what remains a profound, silent mystery beneath the waves. Ultimately, the Dokos shipwreck is a testament to human resilience, ingenuity, and domestic life. It reminds us that history is not solely composed of monumental events, battles, or rulers, but also of ordinary lives, domestic routines, and the humble objects that sustain existence. The amphorae, wooden crates, and household items serve as proxies for human experience, connecting us across millennia with people who lived, worked, and traveled in ways that were remarkably similar to our own. The ship was a home, a marketplace, a carrier of sustenance and continuity, and through its remains it continues to teach us about the complexity, ingenuity, and universality of human life. And so, the Dokos shipwreck remains an enduring symbol of the past. Beneath the waves, it lies in quiet repose, its cargo scattered yet intact, a relic of human endeavor and the enduring connection between people, trade, and the domestic sphere. It is a story of risk and resilience, of ordinary lives made extraordinary by circumstance, and of history preserved not in grand palaces or monumental tombs, but in the humble objects of daily existence. The shipwreck carries with it the whispers of homes long vanished, a reminder that even ordinary objects can hold extraordinary significance, and that through careful study and imagination, we can reconnect with the lives of those who came before us. The wreck that carried homes is a story of survival, adaptation, and human connection, a bridge across time that allows us to reflect on our own lives, the choices we make, and the ways in which our own cargo of daily existence might one day tell a story to the generations that follow. In every amphora, every crate, every fragment, there is a narrative waiting to be understood, a home waiting to be remembered, and a past waiting to be heard. The vase that sang. In the sun-baked hills and fertile valleys of ancient Crete, long before the rise of empires across the Mediterranean, a civilization flourished that was as sophisticated as it was mysterious. The Minoans, whose palaces were adorned with flowing frescoes and whose cities bustled with trade, left behind traces of a society deeply connected to art, ritual, and the rhythms of daily life. Among the most intriguing of their creations is a vessel that has captivated archaeologists and historians for decades, the Minoan flute vase. Known to modern scholars as the vase that sang, this singular artifact is not merely a piece of pottery, it is a testament to the ingenuity, creativity, and cultural sophistication of an ancient people whose legacy still resonates across time. Discovered in a tomb near the ruins of Phaistos, the vase is made from fine clay, skillfully thrown and carefully shaped by a master potter who understood not only the technical demands of pottery but the aesthetic needs of their society. Its form is elegant and deliberate, a slender body tapering to a narrow neck, a rounded base, and a flared lip, all designed with both utility and beauty in mind. The most striking feature, however, is not immediately visible to the casual observer. The vase's body is perforated with a series of carefully placed holes, an arrangement that, when air passes through, produces tones, a rudimentary musical instrument embedded within a vessel of daily life. It is as though the vase itself could speak, hum, and sing, offering a melody that carries across centuries to reach us today. The function of the flute vase remains a matter of debate among scholars, and it is this very ambiguity that makes it so compelling. Some suggest it was a purely ceremonial object, designed to accompany religious rituals to enhance chants, prayers, or dances with its haunting notes. Others believe it may have served as an experimental musical instrument, an exploration of sound and resonance by a culture fascinated with the harmony of nature, the sea, and the human voice. Whatever its purpose, the careful placement of perforations and the precision of its construction reveal a sophisticated understanding of acoustics, one that is remarkable for a civilization more than 3 millennia removed from modern science. The vase was found alongside a collection of other grave goods, including pottery, jewelry, and small tools, all carefully arranged to accompany a deceased individual into the afterlife. This context suggests that the vase's purpose may have been symbolic as much as practical, a companion for the departed, a conduit through which the music of life could persist beyond death. In a society where art, ritual, and everyday life were deeply intertwined, the vase that sang may have held multiple layers of meaning, bridging the gap between the living and the dead, between music and material culture, between human creativity and the eternal mysteries of existence. Crafted from clay sourced from the fertile plains of Crete, the vase was likely fired in a kiln designed to produce an even, resilient hardness. The surface is coated with a delicate slip, a natural mineral-based paint that would have provided both a protective layer and a subtle sheen, enhancing the vessel's elegance. Traces of pigments suggest that the vase may once have borne painted decorations, perhaps stylized waves, floral patterns, or abstract motifs reflecting the natural world that the Minoans so celebrated in their frescoes and pottery. Each stroke, each indentation, each perforation carries with it the hand of a craftsman deeply attuned to the marriage of form, function, and beauty. The acoustic properties of the vase are equally extraordinary. When air passes through its holes, a series of harmonious tones emerges, creating a sound that is hauntingly melodic, yet deeply resonant, echoing the Minoan's sophisticated sense of rhythm and melody. Scholars have compared the effect to a wind instrument, one capable of producing sustained notes that could accompany songs, dances, or ceremonial acts. This interplay between visual form and auditory function reveals a culture that did not separate art from life, but integrated them, recognizing the power of sound to shape experience, memory, and ritual. The vase also offers insight into the broader Minoan economy and culture. Its creation required not only skilled artisans but a network of resource acquisition, including clay, mineral pigments, and tools for shaping and firing. This network reflects a society with complex trade relationships, specialized labor, and an appreciation for both domestic use and ceremonial significance. Objects like the flute vase were likely prized possessions, symbols of status and refinement, and their inclusion in burials speaks to the Minoans' desire to honor the dead with items that reflected skill, beauty, and meaning. The discovery of the vase that sang has prompted archaeologists to reconsider assumptions about the Minoans' understanding of music and technology. It challenges the notion that ancient societies were merely utilitarian in their craft, showing instead a culture capable of experimentation, innovation, and artistic expression. It also underscores the human desire to merge practical objects with symbolic meaning, to create tools that not only serve daily needs but also elevate the spirit, connect the living with the divine, and resonate across time. Studying the vase requires meticulous care. Waterlogged soils, centuries of burial, and natural erosion have left parts of the vessel fragile. Conservationists employ advanced techniques to stabilize its clay body, preserve pigment traces, and maintain the integrity of its perforations so that modern observers can both see and hear what the original makers intended. Replicas of the vase have even been constructed to demonstrate its acoustic qualities, allowing researchers to experience firsthand the eerie, ethereal tones that the Minoans would have known, a haunting echo of an ancient civilization's auditory imagination. Every element of the vase tells a story. The choice of clay, the delicate shape, the perforations, the painted motifs, the context of its burial, together, they speak of a culture in which life, death, art, and sound were inseparable. The vessel embodies the Minoans' unique approach to existence, attentive to beauty, attuned to nature, and mindful of the connections between human creativity and the spiritual world. It reminds us that the past is not merely a collection of dates and names, but a living, breathing tapestry of human experience, ingenuity, and emotion. The vase that sang also raises questions about the transmission of knowledge in ancient Crete. How did artisans learn to create an object that could both hold liquid and produce musical tones? Was this knowledge shared widely, or was it reserved for a select class of skilled craftsmen and ritual specialists? Did these vases accompany ceremonies in palaces, temples, or domestic spaces, bridging social spheres through shared experience of music and ritual? Each perforation, each curve, each subtle variation in thickness reflects intentionality, experimentation, and a deep understanding of materials that could surprise modern observers even today. Beyond its technical sophistication, the vase is a reminder of the universality of music in human culture. Across every age and civilization, humans have sought to produce sound, to structure rhythm, and to create melodies that resonate with emotion and memory. The Minoan flute vase embodies this impulse, showing that even as early as the 2nd millennium BCE, people were exploring ways to blend art, function, and sound into objects that enriched both daily and ceremonial life. It is a tangible link to the human desire to make the world not only useful but beautiful, not only sustaining but inspiring. In the quiet halls of museums, in the careful hands of conservators, the vase that sang continues to captivate. It teaches us about Minoan society, yes, but also about human creativity, the intersection of art and life, and the enduring power of objects to convey meaning across millennia. Its melody, though faint, reminds us that the ancient world was never silent. It was filled with sound, ritual, and the voices of countless individuals seeking to express themselves, celebrate life, and leave traces for the future. Through careful study, reconstruction, and imagination, we can almost hear the vase's song. It calls to us across the centuries, connecting modern observers with artisans who lived, created, and dreamed long ago. It is both a practical object and a work of art, a vessel that held liquids, a container that housed beauty, a flute that produced music, and in all of these functions, it exemplifies the remarkable creativity of the Minoans. The story of the vase that sang is not merely a tale of ancient craftsmanship, it is a meditation on the human impulse to create, to experiment, and to infuse objects with meaning that transcends their immediate purpose. It reminds us that even in the distant past, humans sought to combine utility with beauty, function with ceremony, and material with spirit. Each amphora, each perforation, each brushstroke preserved within the clay, connects us to an era in which life, art, and ritual were inseparable, and in doing so, it resonates far beyond the walls of its tomb or the shelves of a museum. The Minoan flute vase, in all its complexity, invites reflection. It challenges us to consider what objects in our own lives carry meaning beyond mere use. It encourages us to listen closely, to appreciate the subtle harmonies in the world, and to recognize that even the simplest vessel may contain layers of history, creativity, and cultural significance. In its elegance, in its song, and in its enduring presence, the vase that sang continues to captivate, inspire, and connect us to a civilization whose voice, though thousands of years distant, can still be heard if we listen carefully enough. The pendant that caught fire. In the heart of Mesoamerica, beneath the scorching sun, and amid rugged volcanic landscapes, ancient civilizations forged objects of remarkable beauty and power, embedding them with meaning that transcended mere decoration. Among these treasures, one artifact continues to mesmerize historians, archaeologists, and gem enthusiasts alike: the fire opal pendant. Known today as the pendant that caught fire, its fiery brilliance and enduring mystery encapsulate not only the skill of the artisans who created it, but also the spiritual and cultural significance that fire, light, and precious stones held in pre-Columbian Mexico. The pendant was unearthed from a ceremonial site in the heart of Oaxaca, an area long associated with the Zapotec civilization, dating back over 1,000 years. Its discovery, preserved under layers of volcanic ash and soil, revealed an object that had survived the passage of centuries almost untouched. Carved from a single flawless fire opal, the pendant seems to capture the very essence of flame within its crystalline structure. The stone is semi-translucent, and its natural play of colors ranges from deep crimson to bright amber, flickering as though alive. Even to the modern eye, it appears to hold an inner fire, a living light frozen in mineral form. The creation of the pendant required extraordinary skill. The artisans of Mesoamerica were masters of their craft, able to shape, polish, and mount hard stones with precision tools crafted from obsidian, bone, and metal. Each facet, curve, and engraving was executed with painstaking care, ensuring not only beauty but a resonance with spiritual and symbolic meaning. The fire opal was not merely ornamental, it carried connotations of divine energy, celestial power, and the transformative force of fire, elements central to the cosmology and ritual life of the Zapotec and neighboring cultures. The pendant itself is modest in size, small enough to be worn around the neck, yet its presence is imposing. Suspended on a delicate chain or woven cord, it would have rested near the heart of its wearer, symbolizing protection, vitality, and perhaps an intimate connection with the divine. In a society where the forces of nature were revered and feared, where the sun, fire, and volcanic activity were integral to survival and religious practice, wearing such a stone was both a statement of spiritual devotion and a declaration of social status. The luminous opal, catching and refracting light, would have been a constant reminder of the wearer's link to the sacred flames of the gods. Analysis of the pendant reveals traces of gold and other alloys used in its mounting. This suggests that it may have been part of a larger ensemble of regalia, perhaps worn by a priest, noble, or ruler during ceremonial functions. Fire opals were rare, and their brilliance made them highly valued, not only for aesthetic appeal, but also for their perceived metaphysical properties. In pre-Columbian thought, gemstones were considered vessels of energy, capable of amplifying prayers, warding off evil, or channeling divine forces. The fire opal, with its dancing reds and oranges, was particularly potent, evoking the sun, the volcanic heart of the earth, and the eternal flame of life itself. The pendant's journey from quarry to finished jewel is a story of mastery and intention. The opal would have been mined from volcanic rock, a dangerous and labor-intensive process requiring knowledge of geology, patience, and perseverance. Once extracted, the raw stone needed careful selection to ensure clarity and brilliance. The shaping and polishing processes demanded hours of meticulous work, with artisans understanding the intricate relationship between light, surface, and angle to maximize the opal's fiery display. Once shaped, it was mounted, its setting designed to protect, highlight, and celebrate the stone, allowing it to interact with sunlight and candlelight alike. Its placement within ceremonial contexts adds another layer to its story. The pendant was likely used in rites associated with fire and sun worship, pivotal aspects of Mesoamerican spiritual life. Fire was seen as a purifying force, a medium of transformation, and a link between humans and gods. The pendant, glowing in the hands of a priest or shaman, would have seemed to pulse with life, channeling sacred energy and reinforcing the authority of its bearer. In this way, the fire opal was not a passive object but an active participant in ritual, a conduit through which divine power could be experienced and enacted. The pendant's survival is remarkable. The centuries have left faint marks on its surface, tiny abrasions, the software of handling, yet the stone's fire remains undiminished. It is as though the opal's inherent energy, the fire that gives it its name, has protected it through time. Its journey from creation, ceremonial use, burial or storage, and eventual discovery mirrors the human fascination with light, beauty, and transcendence. In every gleam, historians see the lives, beliefs, and intentions of those who first held it, offering a window into a world long vanished, yet vividly alive through the artifact itself. Scientific analysis of the opal reveals its unique composition. Unlike quartz or other gemstones, fire opal exhibits a phenomenon known as play of color, a structural interplay of silica spheres that diffract light. This natural effect creates the impression of fire dancing within the stone, an effect that ancient artisans may have interpreted as the very essence of life or divine presence. Some scholars argue that such visual phenomena would have reinforced the stone's sacred status, marking it as an object worthy of reverence and careful preservation. The pendant was not simply jewelry, it was a talisman, a symbol, and a channel for energies both earthly and spiritual. Its discovery also raises fascinating questions about trade, cultural exchange, and the movement of precious materials in ancient Mesoamerica. The volcanic regions that yielded fire opals were limited, meaning the stone likely traveled long distances before reaching the hands of the artisan who transformed it into a pendant. This journey, from extraction to crafting to ceremonial use, reflects a network of knowledge, skill, and commerce, revealing a civilization deeply engaged with its environment and capable of complex organization. The pendant, in this sense, embodies not only spiritual and aesthetic values, but also economic and social systems, offering insight into the broader structure of the society that produced it. Archaeologists and gemologists have studied the pendant extensively, employing modern techniques such as spectroscopy, microscopy, and 3D imaging to understand its material composition and construction. These analyses have confirmed the exceptional quality of the stone and the precision of its crafting, underscoring the advanced understanding of materials possessed by Mesoamerican artisans. Yet for all the scientific insight, much about the pendant's original context, its symbolic nuances, and the identity of its wearer remains a mystery. These unknowns invite reflection and imagination, allowing us to engage with the object, not just analytically, but empathetically, envisioning the hands that held it, the ceremonies it illuminated, and the lives it touched. As we contemplate the pendant today, we are reminded of the universality of human fascination with fire, light, and beauty. Across cultures and centuries, humans have sought to capture the ephemeral, to distill the essence of the world into objects that inspire awe, reverence, and connection. The fire opal pendant stands as a testament to this impulse, a luminous link between past and present, material and metaphysical, ordinary life and extraordinary artistry. The fire opal pendant is not just an artifact, it is a narrative, frozen in stone. Its fire illuminates not only the skill of ancient artisans, but also the beliefs, values, and aspirations of a people whose voices continue to resonate through the centuries. Each glance, each touch, each careful study connects us to that long-vanished world, reminding us of the enduring power of human creativity and the timeless allure of objects that truly sing. Its story is still unfolding, as researchers uncover more sites, refine dating techniques, and explore the ceremonial landscapes of ancient Mesoamerica. The pendant continues to inspire new insights. Its fire, both literal and symbolic, illuminates the interconnectedness of art, religion, society, and environment in the ancient world. Through the lens of this single, remarkable object, we gain a broader understanding of the human spirit, the quest for beauty, and the desire to capture the intangible in a tangible form. The pendant that caught fire is a beacon across time, a reminder that even in the oldest civilizations, humans sought to create objects that transcended the ordinary, that carried meaning far beyond themselves, and that connected the living with the divine. It remains a luminous testament to ingenuity, devotion, and the timeless fascination with the fiery heart of creation itself. As we continue to explore the fire opal pendant, it becomes clear that its significance extends far beyond its beauty. This extraordinary piece not only reflects the skill of Mesoamerican artisans, but also serves as a cultural touchstone, illuminating the complex spiritual, social, and symbolic world of the people who created and cherished it. Each facet, each fiery hue, each meticulous engraving, provides insight into a civilization that was deeply attuned to the forces of nature, the divine, and the human desire to connect with both. The rituals surrounding such a pendant would have been profound and highly structured. In Mesoamerican societies, fire was not merely a practical tool, but a sacred element. It represented transformation, renewal, and divine presence. Priests and shamans often performed ceremonies at dawn or during specific festivals, invoking the sun, the gods of fire, or ancestors to bless the community and ensure prosperity. The fire opal pendant, glowing in sunlight or torchlight, would have been more than ornamentation. It was an active participant in these rituals, capturing and reflecting light in a way that symbolized life, power, and spiritual energy. The pendant's placement near the heart of its wearer also carries profound meaning. In pre-Columbian thought, the heart was considered the seat of life force, emotion, and divine connection. By wearing the fire opal pendant close to this vital center, the individual would have been symbolically aligning themselves with the energy of fire, its warmth, its illumination, and its transformative power. This connection likely conveyed not only spiritual protection but also status, as access to such rare and potent materials would have been reserved for the elite, or for those serving sacred roles within the community. Trade networks played a crucial role in the pendant's existence. Fire opals were mined from specific volcanic regions in central Mexico, including areas surrounding Puebla and Querétaro. These stones were highly prized, their fiery play of color making them objects of fascination and desire. The journey of a raw opal from the quarry to the hands of a master artisan would have involved negotiation, transportation, and exchange across significant distances, reflecting a sophisticated system of commerce and cultural exchange. This highlights the interconnectedness of Mesoamerican societies, where material wealth, spiritual authority, and artistic skill intersected to create objects of enduring power. The pendant's craftsmanship further reflects a nuanced understanding of aesthetics and symbolism. The artisan not only shaped and polished the opal but carefully considered how light would interact with its facets. The arrangement of the stone within its setting was deliberate, allowing it to catch sunlight or the flicker of flame in ceremonial contexts, enhancing its visual and symbolic impact. The interplay between the stone and its mount, often made of gold or other metals, exemplifies the Mesoamerican skill in combining materials to elevate both function and meaning. Beyond ceremonial use, the pendant may also have had a role in communication and storytelling. Many Mesoamerican artifacts were imbued with narratives, histories, or genealogies, and it is possible that the pendant symbolized mythological events or cosmological principles. Its fiery brilliance might have evoked the sun's journey across the sky, the volcanic heart of the earth, or the transformative power of fire in creation myths. To wear such a pendant was not simply to possess a beautiful object, but to carry a story, a piece of collective memory, and a connection to the sacred world of the ancestors. The pendant's enduring mystery is amplified by its rarity. Few fire opal pendants of comparable age and craftsmanship have survived. Each surviving piece serves as a crucial window into the past, offering insights into the ceremonial life, aesthetic values, and technological capabilities of the Mesoamerican peoples. Archaeologists and historians study it not merely as a decorative item, but as a complex artifact that embodies layers of meaning, social, spiritual, economic, and artistic. Its study requires careful examination of materials, context, and comparative artifacts, allowing researchers to reconstruct the networks of production, trade, and ritual in which it was embedded. Scientific analysis has revealed further secrets about the pendant. Micro-examinations of its surface show traces of handling and wear, indicating it was frequently worn or touched, perhaps during rituals or as part of daily attire. This evidence of use adds a deeply human dimension to the object, reminding us that it was once intimately connected to the lives of real people, leaders, priests, or individuals of high status, whose hands, gestures, and intentions help shape its history. The pendant, in essence, becomes a bridge across time, linking modern observers with ancient individuals whose presence is otherwise silent in the archaeological record. The cultural resonance of fire opals extends beyond this single pendant. In Mesoamerican thought, gemstones were often seen as vessels of cosmic energy, capable of influencing the world around them. Fire opals, in particular, were associated with the sun, life force, and the cyclical nature of creation and destruction. The pendant that caught fire embodies these beliefs, serving as a focal point for meditation, worship, and social display. Its enduring allure testifies to the human desire to connect with the cosmos, to hold a piece of its power, and to manifest spiritual concepts through material objects. In considering the pendant's broader impact, it is essential to reflect on its role as a symbol of artistic innovation. The Mesoamerican artisans who created it combined knowledge of mineralogy, aesthetics, and ritual practice in a way that demonstrates remarkable sophistication. The ability to shape a raw gemstone, enhance its natural qualities, and incorporate it into a ceremonial object speaks to a culture that valued both technical skill and symbolic resonance. It reminds us that innovation and artistry are not solely modern phenomena, but have deep roots in human history, where creativity and meaning were inseparable. The pendant also invites contemplation on the nature of preservation and memory. That it has survived for over a millennium, through natural disasters, human upheaval, and the passage of time, is extraordinary. Its endurance reflects not only the durability of the materials but also the reverence with which it was treated by successive generations. Objects like this pendant serve as vessels of memory, carrying the intentions, beliefs, and aesthetic sensibilities of the past into the present. Each reflection of light, each subtle play of color, evokes the hands and eyes of those who first crafted and cherished it, allowing us to engage with history on an intimate, human level. Modern interpretations of the pendant emphasize its intersection with both science and spirituality. Gemologists marvel at the fire opal's natural phenomena, while historians and anthropologists explore its ritual, symbolic, and social significance. Together, these perspectives reveal a comprehensive picture of the pendant's role in ancient society as a work of art, a spiritual tool, a status symbol, and a technological achievement. It is an object that transcends simple categorization, existing simultaneously in multiple spheres of meaning and influence. The story of the pendant that caught fire does not end with its discovery. Its continued study inspires new generations to explore ancient Mesoamerican culture, to experiment with materials and techniques, and to appreciate the enduring connection between human creativity and natural beauty. Educational programs, museum displays, and digital reconstructions bring its story to life, allowing people worldwide to experience its brilliance, understand its context, and marvel at the ingenuity of its creators. In doing so, the pendant continues to illuminate the past, bridging millennia and connecting the modern world with an ancient civilization whose legacy continues to inspire wonder. Finally, the pendant reminds us of the universal human fascination with fire, light, and transformation. Across cultures and ages, humans have sought to capture the essence of the world around them, to distill power and beauty into objects that inspire awe, devotion, and connection. The fire opal pendant stands as a luminous example of this impulse, a testament to the enduring creativity, spiritual awareness, and technical skill of those who came before us. Its fire, captured within a single stone, continues to burn metaphorically, illuminating the mysteries of human history and the boundless imagination of our ancestors. In the end, the pendant that caught fire is more than a piece of jewelry. It is a narrative, a relic, and a work of art that embodies the brilliance of Mesoamerican civilization. It invites us to reflect on the interplay of material, symbolic, and spiritual realms, to appreciate the ingenuity of ancient artisans, and to recognize the ways in which objects can connect us to lives, beliefs, and stories long past. It is a beacon across time, a frozen flame that continues to shine, reminding us of the creativity, devotion, and wonder that define the human experience. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history's hidden treasures. If you enjoyed exploring these artifacts, please hit subscribe, give this video a like, and let us know where you're watching from. Stay curious, and we'll uncover more secrets together in the next adventure.